Hi, my name is Chase Tolby, and this is my speech over egocentrism. So, we're going to start to break down today kind of what egocentrism is. And the crazy thing is that all of us actually display this on the daily. Now, I'm not calling you self centered or anything like this, but there are little quirks that each of us perform that kind of display our egocentrism that you probably didn't even know about. For example, when some people get angry, others go off and they want to be alone, they'll isolate themselves, while other people sometimes will make a big deal out of it. They'll throw a fit, kind of similar to how like a child or a young teenager might get super upset over something super little. They want people to realize how angry they are. It's a subconscious thing that they do that kind of they want all the attention. They want the world to kind of be looking at them. And that's just one little thing that can kind of make one little quirk that can make someone realize that they might have an egocentric trait. So this first started with a Swiss psychologist, Piaget, who did a study and then saw it in children originally, how they would kind of talk to themselves, and they would treat it as if they were the only one in the room, when in reality there could be 3 or 4 people listening to the conversation they were having with themselves. And this is when he started to kind of realize that maybe people can kind of get in a world of their own and not realize things that they're doing subconsciously to others. So today we're going to focus on what egocentrism is, how it differs from narcissism, because the two are very different. And then also we're going to look at all those couple of those quirks that people do, and then kind of break them down a little bit and describe what they are. And now you'll start to notice them a bit more. So actually Piaget talked about, so one example is when you're talking to yourself. And Piaget saw this in children early on, and I paraphrased a quote of his that says, when a child talks to themselves because they can only see themselves as someone that can hear what they are saying. Meaning there may be other people in the room, but when they are in that egocentric view, they are only focused on what they're talking to themselves and what they're saying. So that's just one little example of a quote from Piaget about how he kind of started to see things in the way of a child. So what is egocentrism? Well, it is a heightened view of oneself, so that leads to a heightened self-awareness and self-consciousness over anything that person is doing. So it usually shows out a lot more in teens and kids, that kind of as you're growing up, those are little things you kind of learn to overcome, but people still do them on the daily. Like myself, I do these things all the time. So it's little things like that can kind of lead to someone thinking about themselves in a more egocentric view, that all eyes are on them all the time, or maybe they're super worried about what others think of them, or they're really caught up in their own ambitions over trying to help out other people. But unlike egocentrism, narcissism is different in that fact. So leading into this, when one's self-conscious would build up a little bit too much, then you would start to get into a narcissistic view. So there are a few narcissistic traits that are really out there compared to the egocentric ones that I'll get into later. But narcissism in people, when they are narcissistic, they view themselves as extraordinary. They think that, the world is great because I live on it. Not just as an egocentric view of the world I live on is great, but the world is phenomenal because I'm the one that makes it phenomenal, not because of everyone else. And that's just kind of one little thing that they do. Everything is kind of shifted just a little bit more towards them in an own self-conscious view. They'll also try to manipulate others to get what they want. They'll try and get people to go out of their way to do things to make their life easier, as opposed to egocentric people might just do it subconsciously. They might suggest something, whereas narcissistic people will really push and try and talk people into doing stuff for them. Narcissistic people also have a sense of entitlement. They think that they need to give their 2 cents on every single thing, whereas egocentric people might just be arguing their point on their own, without actually trying to really push so that they're right all the time. They might just be arguing their point without seeing the other side. And that can kind of be something that that's one of the traits that I'm going to lead into. So the behaviors of an egocentrism can be a false consensus. Someone that shares their perspective a little bit too much. They always have something to argue for. They're always arguing for their own point. They never like to see another person's view. They really only go out of their way to just see their own, but they do it without knowing so. They're not doing it to benefit themselves. They're doing it because they think they need to share that. Also, another one is the curse of knowledge. So you may also know this as an intellectual bully. It's someone that talks down to other people. They will kind of use the knowledge that they know or something that they're passionate about and then learn up a lot about that and then talk down to someone else that maybe doesn't know as much, kind of belittling them. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is the spotlight effect. This one is where you walk into a room and you think all eyes are on you. Every single person is watching every single little move that you make, that if you mess up once, then everyone is going to see what's going on with you. It's kind of it kind of hones your self-consciousness on everyone is just watching you all the time. Now, all of these traits are perfectly normal. I can tell you I've done all of these traits before. I've shared my opinion a little bit too much, thought everyone was kind of looking at me, stuff like that. But now that I've pointed out these, you can kind of distinguish it from other things. And it's perfectly normal, so don't even have to worry about doing it or not doing it. That's up to you. Now, thank you for listening to my speech about egocentrism. And then the sources I used, Jody Clark's, Do You Have an Egocentric Person in Your Life? And then also Widborn's, There's a Fine Line Between Narcissism and Egocentrism. Thank you.